Let me show you this scar on my elbow, and then I'll show you the invisible scar that I use to control my confidence and the exact framework I use to heal it. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Faith and I'm an inner work coach. I help women who feel stuck and out of control in their life go from a place of self-doubt and frustration to a place where they are clearing mental blockages and balancing their feminine and masculine energy. So I'm so happy to have you today. Let's get right into it. Today I'm going to be showing you exactly how to trace an emotional trigger back to its original wound so you can finally heal it. We're going to be talking about the phases of emotional wounds and how they are similar to physical wounds. And then we are going to go into journal prompts to help you finally discover where that trigger is actually connected to. By the end of this video, you'll have the exact framework to reveal and heal your hidden wounds. So let's talk about that one moment you get triggered and you don't know why, because it's usually not what you think. Triggers aren't random. It's your nervous system replaying an old story, an old wound, an old pain that was never truly healed. So now we're going to go into the phases of what a trigger is in terms of emotional and inner work. The first phase we have is the fresh wound phase. This is when we first get wounded, whether it was a mean comment, rejection, or betrayal. It's just like a fresh cut. It burns, it stings, and every little thing that touches it sends a shock of pain through your whole body. And just like physical wounds, emotional wounds also need time to heal. But also, just like a physical wound, if that emotional wound goes untreated, it can become infected. Emotional wounds get infected when we don't tend to them properly, or we don't act like they're actually affecting us. And the way this infection can happen is by holding resentment. Bitterness is something that festers and it spreads. It's also something like obsessing. It's replaying that moment over and over again to where now your body is never able to heal because it thinks it's still going through the pain. Another one is avoidance, acting like everything is okay, whole time that wound is just getting worse underneath. And the last is projection. It looks like lashing out on people because you are unhealed. So the infection phase is phase 2. That's if you don't do any healing at all. But if you do healing, then you have to be in the healing environment or the place where a scab can form over that wound. This is phase 3. Just like physical wounds need the right environment to heal, so do emotional wounds. You cannot heal in the same place you were hurt. A healing environment looks like a safe place for you to process what has happened to you or how you feel. It can also look like therapy, talking to your friends, or talking to loved ones that you trust. It's also self-reflection, time and patience, and protection from being hurt again. That is a healing environment. And once you are able to get into that healing environment, or you are in a healing environment, then we can move on to the scab formation, which is also part of phase 3. It happens in the healing environment. This part of phase 3 is where we start to develop coping mechanisms. We learn to be okay. We may even use humor to cover up our true pain. In this part, we start to create a protective barrier. But that wound is still fresh and that scar or that scab is still fragile. That means the slightest touch, the wrong comment, anything that puts any pressure on that wound, it will rip off that scab and now you are back at that raw and vulnerable place. That is what triggers do to your emotional wounds. It's revealing a place that has never been truly healed. Now we're in phase 4. This is where a scar has officially formed and it's no longer a scab over that wound. I like to call this phase the scar sensitivity. It's where it looks like it's healed, but looks can be very deceiving. It's like if someone were to brush up against this scar when it was healing or the scar was forming, I wouldn't just feel that person's touch. I would feel the whole injury all over again. The story of how I got this scar will start to replay, as if I'm going through that experience all over again from the beginning. That's why a seemingly small comment can trigger such an intense reaction. It's because it hit something that was never healed. Imagine having a wound, right? So say this is a scar. I don't know if this is really showing up well on camera, but right here, it's a scar. It's about like this big. So Say if someone were to brush my arm, this doesn't hurt. It feels like normal touch. But if they were to brush this area, this unhealed area at the time, I would be in such immense pain because it's raw, it's vulnerable, it's new, and it hasn't had time to heal. That's exactly what triggers are doing. You can only get triggered if whatever that trigger is hitting something that is raw. I really want to get that point across because there's a lot of things that can be said to you and they don't bother you. It's because there's no wound that that trigger is hitting. But as soon as something hits something, that's where you know that is an area you need to focus. If somebody says something and now you feel insecure about something or you feel ashamed, then you know that is an emotional wound that you need to address. So now we're moving on to the last phase of the emotional wounds, which is the healing phase, or I like to also call it the scar story. This is when you have fully healed. It's when you're able to look at your emotional wound, just like I'm able to look at the scar on my elbow, and I can touch it, I can talk about it, I remember exactly how I got it, but I feel no pain. That is when you know you have truly healed. This is the phase where that scar has now become a part of your story, and it's no longer an active wound that is affecting your present moment. I also like to call this phase the scar story because the scar becomes a beautiful storyteller. It reminds you of where you've been, what you overcome, and the journey you have taken. But it no longer triggers a wounded response. It's just now a part of your story. It's part of your landscape, but it no longer defines you. And that's exactly what emotional healing looks like. When you're able to recall that painful memory, when you're able to talk about it and remember it and know exactly what has happened, but you feel neutral about it, that is true healing. Is being able to no longer be triggered, no longer experiencing pain, just being able to see it clearly with awareness and say, yes, this has happened, but it no longer affects me anymore. It's just a part of my story. Okay, so now I want to talk about an invisible emotional wound that I was dealing with that I didn't even realize I was dealing with for a few years. And it wasn't until I believe my later years in college, around my junior, senior year, that I really started to be self-aware and ask myself, why do I feel like this? So I'm going to make this story pretty quick, and then I'm going to give you guys the exact framework I used to identify this wound and how I healed it. I was a cheerleader from second grade all the way up to my freshman year of college. And so in high school, I obviously cheered, right? And there was a time after school, it was after practice. And if you did sports, then you know after practice, like basically the whole campus is empty and just the other people that are in sports are maybe getting out of their practice around the same time. And so I had about two other people. I think in total it was maybe 4 or 5 of us, including me, and it was two guys from the basketball team. Okay, so one of those friends were actually from middle school, and we had dated, and he was on the basketball team. We were actually the only two kids that went from our middle school to this high school. So going into high school, we grew even closer, right? Because we were the only people that we knew going into this high school. And so it's after practice. He got done with basketball practice. Me and my friends were done with cheerleading practice. And so it's him and another friend that's on the basketball team, and then me, and then maybe two other of my friends that are on their cheerleading team. And there was this new guy that started at our school. He started like the second semester of freshman year. And so he joined the basketball team as well. And I remember my friend told me that I guess like this guy liked to rate girls in the school, which is like very immature and childish, but especially the cheerleaders, because you know we're in front of the school, we're doing pep rallies, we're in front of like the whole everybody's family and stuff at games. And so I guess it's just because we're literally in the public eye at this point. And so my friend had told me what he said about me, right? Not thinking that what he said would have any effect on me, because he obviously didn't believe that this comment was true, because me and him had dated. So of course, let me just tell you guys. Okay, so he told me that when he was going down the line of ladies, I guess talking about them, rating them, whatever, that when he got to me, he was like, oh, she has a nice body, but her acne on her face makes her like unattractive or something like that, right? And so he told me that, not thinking that it was gonna affect me, because me and him obviously like dated and things like that. So of course he doesn't believe that I was unattractive, rather I had acne or not. But in that moment, I felt so embarrassed because, one, the comment that he said didn't affect me because the guy, if you guys saw him, it's like, okay. But what really affected me is that he told me that in front of other people. When he said that, I could literally feel everybody's eyes in the room. Well, like, we're outside. I could feel everybody's eyes. Mind you, it's maybe like 3 other people besides him and me. So like 5 total. I could feel everybody like just kind of like look at me. And I didn't know, in that moment I already was self-conscious of my acne, but I didn't wear makeup. I was a freshman. I don't think my mom at that time really wanted me to wear makeup. And my family never made me feel any type of way about my acne, so I never felt the need to cover up, right? And plus my mom, my brother, and my sister all had acne, and then they eventually grew out of it. So I just thought that was going to happen to me as well. But when he made this comment, and I can feel everybody just like look at me, and in that moment, they were probably looking at me to see what I was going to say, to see how I felt about it. But I felt like they were looking at my skin. And I felt so insecure about that. I played it cool, but in that moment, I literally just wanted to run away. I just wanted to run home, like straight home and never come back to that school. But I had to play it cool. And I don't remember exactly what I said. I don't remember exactly what I said. That was years ago. But I didn't realize how much that had affected me until I started to self-reflect. And it actually became a point. So after that, the next semester, coming into my sophomore year, I believe, like over the summer, I was watching makeup videos. I was practicing makeup, everything. And so coming into sophomore year, there was not a day, not one day from my first year of sophomore year up until I graduated high school that I did not come to school with makeup on. At first, as a freshman, I would only wear mascara, and that was the only makeup I had. But after that comment, it made me feel like, oh, if he's saying this about me, then other people feel like this about me as well. Other people are looking at me thinking about this as well. I'm a cheerleader. I'm in front of the whole school. I'm in front of big crowds. And I'm usually in the front because I eventually became a captain. So it's not even like I can really hide in the back behind somebody. That had wounded me so much, I didn't even realize until I was older. And this moment I had really realized was actually my freshman year of college. I had realized that this wound was deeper than what I had thought. It's not just, oh, I love makeup, because I do. But it became a point where I felt like I couldn't leave the house without makeup. And that's when I knew that it was coming from a wounded place. And there was one time I was with my friends. We were in her room, and it was late. It was probably about 2 a.m. And there's this cookie place that's open until like 4 a.m. It's called Insomnia Cookie. And if you have one near you, then you know. And I remember we had some friends that went to another college that was like right across the street from ours, and he had a car. And so we were like all talking, and he was saying that he was going there. And so he said he'll pick us up if we want to go. So of course we're like, oh yeah, sure. It's like a 10-minute drive from his place to ours. And that's only because when like he can walk from his dorm to ours in less than 10 minutes, but taking the street, you know, you have to go around versus being able to cut through the campus. And so when they said he was on the way, everybody's chilling, right? These are our friends. Nobody likes them. It's no one to impress. But I still felt the need to cover up my skin. Like even around my friends sometimes I felt insecure because they had such beautiful skin. And I know that they weren't judging me, but even if there were times where my family or my friends would try to give me recommendations, that was like a trigger for me, because in my mind it was like, oh, it's noticeable. Oh, it's bad enough to where people want to help me out. And that triggered me. I didn't even want help. I started going to the dermatologist in high school. I was going every 2 weeks, getting different treatments, but it was just like nothing was working. And so back to the story of when my friend was coming to pick us up to take us to the cookie place. I had like went downstairs real quick. I remember I told my friend, I was like, I think I had told her like, oh, I had to grab something. I really did need to like grab my wallet and stuff like that. But while I was down there, I literally sat down and I did my makeup. I did my makeup in like 7 minutes, and they had eventually just started making their way down, and I lived on the first floor. And so before they walked out, they knock on my room to come get me. And I remember opening up the door and they're like, oh, you did that fast, you did your makeup fast, just saying like it looks good and stuff like that. But I had just, in that moment, I just hated that I felt the need that I had to do that. I felt like that was part of my process before I left the house. And I refused to leave the house without doing that. And I just wanted to be like one of those type of people that can go out with clear skin and feel confident. And before that comment, I was confident. Acne and all, I was confident. But I let that one comment affect me. And what's so crazy is that that boy went to our school maybe for like a year. He eventually got expelled because he had like brought drugs to our school. And the school I went to, they were serious about drugs. Like they weren't playing. They actually did random checks with the drug dog and a police officer. Like you would be in class and then the door would just open and it'll be a police officer and a drug dog, and everybody would have to leave everything. Their phone, their backpack, just nothing. You don't take anything. You just walk out and the drug dog would go through the rows. And if they sniffed anyone's backpack and signal, then the officer would come out with that backpack, ask whose backpack it is, and then I don't know what happened after that, because I've never been in a class where a dog has signaled that one of the kids had drugs. But I guess that eventually happened to him in one of his classes, and so he ended up getting expelled. And so I remember talking to one of my friends that was there after school when my friend had said that, and I was just like, oh, I had made a joke. At the time, I didn't realize that I was in the scab formation phase. I was using humor to cover up like what I really felt. And so I remember I had made a joke and I was like, oh, maybe he was high when he said that about me, right? And me and my friend were just cracking up. We thought it was so funny. And I thought that since I was able to joke about it and be humorous about it, that it didn't affect me. Even though I would think about it occasionally, I was like, oh, well, I'm able to laugh about it. Like, I'm able to joke about it. But I still felt the need to wear makeup every day. I didn't care if I woke up late. I still was going to put makeup on. It was one of those things where it's like taking a shower. Like, I have to do it. It's just part of my routine now. It's no negotiable. And so that wound is something that I had realized I had. And I really realized it that night that my friends and I were going to Insomnia Cookie, and I had felt the need to put makeup on. I look back now, like it was like 2 a.m. I'm just with my friends. Like, why did I feel the need to do that? And I realize now it's because I told myself a story that if I don't have makeup on, people are judging me. People are judging my acne at the time. Now I don't have any. But at the time, it was like as if when I got older, it was getting worse. Like when I look back at my pictures in high school, I'm like, my acne wasn't even bad compared to my later years in college, actually. And so I didn't realize the story I was telling myself about how I felt about my skin without makeup. And it, like I said, even got to a point where people are recommending things and I'm getting offended because I don't want you to recommend anything. I'm going to a dermatologist. I'm getting medical help. And obviously nothing is helping. So putting toothpaste on or these home remedies didn't help either. So it just felt like an endless battle. Like I've tried, at that time I had tried everything. And it wasn't until I did Accutane that actually cleared my acne. And I was on Accutane for about 7 months. And I loved it. It got rid of my acne. It definitely took time and I can see the healing taking place. But it wasn't until then that I really stopped wearing makeup, because during that process my skin was peeling, right? Accutane like dries out your skin to dry out the acne. And so at that time I had stopped wearing makeup because it wasn't looking good putting it over like super dry peeling skin, right? And so even though I still had acne, I still was going out with my peeling face and everything. But it would surprise me when people would compliment me on my skin, because I'm like, in my head I'm thinking my skin is peeling, like my skin is so dry right now. And so it actually got to a point where I didn't really believe when people would compliment me. I didn't believe when people said my skin looked good, because in my mind, even though I'm healing my skin and it is looking better, I'm still that little girl that had that comment about her acne made. that's when I knew that there was something within me that needed to be healed. So I know I said it was a short story that probably was a few minutes long, but I really just wanted to get that out there. It can be literally one thing that affects you and you don't even realize it. I literally went years. This wasn't until college that I had figured out why I had felt like that. And this boy made that comment about me my freshman year of high school. So just think about how long things can go hidden. And that's why it's important to address every little thing that triggers you. And if you could do something about it, do it. Trust me, you will feel better. Okay, so now we're gonna go into the exact framework and reflection questions I use to help myself discover this wound. The first step is you need to identify the emotion. So for me, it was a feeling of not wanting to be seen in public without makeup. It was a feeling of not wanting people to look at me. I did not want attention. I hated attention. I didn't want people to look at me, especially up close. I felt super uncomfortable. It's like you can see me like wanting to just want space. So identify that emotion that you're having. And now that you have that emotion, right? So for me, it was feeling insecure without makeup. And now this is the journal question that goes along with identifying that emotion. So you're gonna ask yourself, what did I feel the moment it happened? So example, for me, I felt shame. I felt shame for not having clear skin. I felt a need of not wanting to be seen. I felt like I wanted a shield to be invisible. That was the emotion I was feeling. You want to identify the emotion because this tells your nervous system where to look. Now we're going to go into number 2. Now this is where the real inner work begins. You're going to ask yourself, when have I felt this before? A trigger is rarely about the current moment. It's really just your body saying, I've felt this before, long before this current moment. For example, if you have a feeling of feeling dismissed, maybe that's from childhood moments where you weren't fully heard. Or if you feel unchosen, that can be from past relationships. Or if you feel unsafe, that can be from having parents that had unpredictable moods. So you don't have to relive the memory. You just have to connect that emotional wound or that emotional feeling to that memory. So for example, my emotional wound was feeling like I can't go outside without makeup. And I was able to connect how I felt to that comment, but I did not relive the feeling of being told that. Now we're moving on to number 3. And the question I want you to ask yourself or journal is, what story did you attach to this experience? Now this question is key because triggers don't come from actually what has happened to us. It comes from what we have told ourselves after that event has happened. It can be a story that you tell yourself saying that you're not important or other people don't like you. It can also look like telling yourself that you have to be strong, or if you have needs, then people will leave you and see you as a burden. This part is important because when you start to recognize the story you tell yourself, you'll realize that your conscious mind may think that you're talking about now, may think that you're talking about the trigger, but your subconscious mind is actually referring to the first moment it happened to you. Those were the 3 questions to help you identify and trace your triggers. And now we're going to go into number 4, which is reframe. So the trigger is your guide. A trigger doesn't mean you're broken. It just simply means there's a part of you that's unheard and that is screaming to be seen and healed. It's like having a little child and you come home and that child is just so happy and excited to see you, but you ignore them. Of course, that child is going to get louder and do more to get your attention until you recognize it. For me, a way I was able to reframe the way I felt is I had to rewire what I was telling myself. Instead of telling myself that I can't go outside without makeup, I told myself my skin is beautiful, just like everyone else's. There were actually times I would see people with acne and it was as if like the acne made them more beautiful. And I think that's because they were being just authentic. They were being natural and they didn't care what other people were thinking about them. And I asked myself, why can I look at this person and think that they're so beautiful, whether they have acne or not? But then I'm judging myself so hard because I have acne, just like so many other people on this planet. And so reframe the story that you tell yourself. that is going to help you rewire that subconscious thought pattern. And this is important because when you start to respond differently, you're actually creating a new pathway in your brain. You're creating a new you. It's actually rewiring the way you think and feel about yourself. So, like we said, that wound, it will heal and it will become a scar, and it'll be something that you can talk about. You can remember exactly what happened. You have clarity about the situation, but it no longer affects you. So that wraps up the video. I hope that this really helped you all. Thank you so much for listening to my story and taking time out of your day to be here with me. I hope that this all definitely helps. Let me know if you guys want any specific video ideas down below. I love this framework. This framework has helped me in so many ways, and I've actually have been using it to work through multiple emotional wounds. There's things that I didn't even know that were triggers to me. So using these 3 questions and then reframing my subconscious thought pattern is definitely helping me heal, and I hope it does the same for you all. So I will see you all in the next. Bye.